The Adirondack Council is one of the groups that worked on that study. Their communications director, John Sheehan, joins us this week. Thanks for being here. It's good to see you.
My pleasure, Tom. Good to see you.
That study out last week found nearly 80% of the trailheads in the high peaks were overused, and that some of the parking areas at some of the most popular trails had up to 3 times the number of cars there that they weren't designed to have. So
that's right.
That's got to be a concern.
It is, both ecologically and for public safety. And the parking lots are the size they are because DEC felt that's how many people could walk around in that section of the forest preserve without doing damage. When you have 3 times that many cars, there are 3 times that many hikers in walking around. Where they walk and how carefully they walk makes a big difference, but just the sheer volume is going to have a toll on the place after a while.
For many years, did the DEC intentionally keep the lot small? The hope was that if they kept the lot small, only that number of people would use it and other folks would move on to other areas. And has that not worked out?
That was really their main tool for managing capacity in the high peaks, was building parking lots that were suited to how many people could walk reasonably within a day from that spot in through the wilderness area. So that size was really intentional. And to have them overflowing like this means that we've got a lot more people in there than the landscape can manage to handle without there being damage of some kind.
What sort of damage are these crowds doing to the trails?
It begins with compacting the soil and getting it down to a concrete kind of consistency as they walk along the trail. That makes it very difficult for vegetation to grow. That can compact the roots on the trees, make it difficult for them to absorb water and stress the trees right adjacent to the trail. It also leads to erosion, and that's probably the biggest immediate impact because that can cause water pollution in the streams nearby. Places that are heavily overused and have people in them constantly, you can imagine will not have the same kind of wildlife in them that you would find in places where it's quieter most of the time.
So does the study show you that the problem is getting worse?
It does. I think looking back at historical numbers that were kept by the Department of Environmental Conservation, we've seen a steady progression of people. Now, this is a good problem to have. I'm happy to say that the Adirondacks are a popular place, that folks want to come and spend their time and money here. And we're really trying to manage success, and that's important to keep in mind. And there are a lot of folks who want to come and do different things in the Adirondacks. We have to have room for all of them, and I think that we can do that. Development of Exit 29 could help. I think giving people a place to stop and get a lay of the land before they get into the high peaks would be helpful, especially the crowds that come from New York City and the Albany area on the weekend. And that just showing them where available campsites might be, or maybe a route that they didn't consider, going through Newcomb instead of Lake Placid, can make all the difference.
You mentioned Exit 29. That may be a new attraction with Boreas Ponds now, part of the whole High Peaks experience.
Right.
With Exit 29, the state moving ahead with plans to develop that there. That could be an area that could draw some people away from the high peaks.
We're very hopeful that that'll happen and that it'll help to develop the economies of Newcomb and North Hudson at the same time.
Along with promoting the other areas, what steps are the DEC taking to try to address this?
They're doing some things to move parking lots right now, and they are looking at the unit management plans for these areas and what the carrying capacity is. They're in a hurry to get this done in 45 days. I think it's an indication that they're in a hurry to get something done right away that will help initially to manage the crowds and give people a sense of what the plan is for access to the area.
So they're looking at expanding some parking, Chapel Pond, expanding that parking area, looking at moving the trailhead for Cascade to Mount Van Hoevenberg.
Right. Getting people away from 65-mile-an-hour traffic out on the state highway is a good idea because that's where the cars are parking essentially once the lots are full. And having people hike along the highway to get to the trailhead is never a good thing, especially trying to take little kids or pets along that same path. So we're happy to see DEC addressing the public safety issue. We're hopeful that they will consider some measures that will make a difference in the future in terms of how people access the area, and both for overnight camping and for day use. And consider some things like reservation systems, We may need to consider permits. I would hope that we would not consider charging for those permits, because we don't want to put any impediments in front of people who are just trying to enjoy public land they already own. The Adirondacks have always been free and open to the public, and that's something we want to see continue.
With crude back up to $70 a barrel, many people in Plattsburgh have noticed an increase in the number of oil trains, once again moving Bakken crude from Canada down along Lake Champlain through the Adirondack Park.
That's right.
With tracks and tanker cars being upgraded, is it less of a worry than it was a few years ago, or is it still a major concern?
Little less of a worry that we'll have a catastrophic explosion as a result of a derailment, but not a lot less. Derailments are still derailments. They tend to rip a hole in something when it falls off the tracks, and anywhere in the Adirondacks along that 100-mile stretch, we're going to get oil either in Lake Champlain or in significant wildlife habitat or in somebody's neighborhood. So that's something that still keeps us up at night. We'd really love to see a different route taken. The Canadians have been slow to find a better route to the East Coast refineries that they're trying to get their oil to. So instead, they're sending it south from Montreal through Albany and then back out to sea in ships that come right back up to Canada again. About half of the volume is doing that. So if we could get that train traffic reestablished, and we understand Lac Mégantic not wanting to be part of the oil patch anymore, but they've got to find another route to get their traffic over to the East Coast, and that would take a lot of pressure off of us. We'd love to see Congress ban the shipping of oil through the Adirondack Park. I mean, this wouldn't be tolerated in Yellowstone. It wouldn't be tolerated at Yosemite. We think the Adirondack Park is every bit as important, and certainly Lake Champlain is a drinking water supply for 188,000 Americans and Canadians. So there's no reason to put that at risk.
You and numerous other groups have been pushing for that for years. There really doesn't seem to be much of an appetite, though, in Congress to take such steps.
Congress has been very pro-fossil fuel, and the current administration has done nothing to change that.